All right, so we're diving into something a little different today, but still very, very much in our wheelhouse. You know, all about those majestic trees that we love so much.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, today's deep dive is all about knowing when it's time to say goodbye to those trees when they become hazardous. And we need to call in the experts for removal.
Yeah, it's a bit counterintuitive, right? We think of trees as these like steadfast symbols of strength, but sometimes, for the well-being of everyone, they need to come down.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people might be surprised to learn just how dangerous a hazardous tree can be.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's start with the basics.
Yeah.
How can we identify a tree that's, basically waving a giant red flag saying danger?
Okay, well, some of the most obvious signs are things like decay. You see that rotting wood or deep cracks and splits in the trunk, or even just a noticeable lean towards, a structure or a power line.
Yeah, that lean always makes me nervous. Like just picturing the whole thing coming down like a domino.
Yeah. And that's exactly what can happen. The structural integrity of the tree is compromised, and any kind of strong wind or storm could just bring it crashing down.
So those cracks we're talking about, are we talking like hairline fractures or something more significant?
Well, any crack is worth paying attention to, but the ones that are really concerning are deep splits that run through the trunk. It's like a fault line. It's just a matter of time before it gives way.
And speaking of time, I think a lot of people try to save money and do tree removal themselves, thinking it can't be that hard. But the sources we looked at for this deep dive are full of stories about injuries, property damage, and even fatalities from DIY tree removal.
Right. It's like people think they can just grab a chainsaw and go to town, but there's so much more to it than that. Professional arborists undergo years of training to understand the dynamics of trees and how to fell them safely.
Yeah, it's like performing surgery. You wouldn't want someone operating on you who just watched a YouTube video, right?
Exactly. There's a reason why it's a specialized profession.
Okay, so we've established that DIY tree removal is a bad idea. But how do we know when it's absolutely crucial to call in a pro? What are those scenarios where there's no room for debate?
So the most obvious one is when a tree is anywhere near power lines. You're dealing with the risk of electrocution, and that's just not worth messing around with.
Yeah, that's a hard pass for me.
Another scenario is when you're dealing with a large or complex tree, especially one with multiple trunks or branches that are growing in weird directions. It just requires specialized knowledge and equipment to handle those safely.
It's like knowing when to call a plumber versus trying to fix a leaky faucet yourself.
Exactly. Some things are best left to the professionals.
Okay, so let's say we've made the decision to call in an arborist. What are the key things we should be looking for?
Well, first and foremost, you want to make sure they're certified by a reputable organization like the ISA or the TCIA that shows they've met industry standards.
It's like checking their credentials, right?
Exactly. And you also want to make sure they have proof of insurance just in case anything goes wrong.
Yeah, that's important. Protects both you and them.
And don't underestimate the power of online reviews. See what other people are saying about their experiences with that arborist.
Yeah, I always tell people if you see a bunch of positive reviews, that's a good sign.
And one more thing, always get a written estimate before any work begins.
Yes, a roadmap for the whole project.
Exactly that way. You know exactly what's included and what the costs are going to be.
Transparency is key.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the message is pretty clear. Recognizing the signs of hazardous trees and knowing when to call in a professional is crucial for everyone's safety.
It's all about peace of mind, right?
Exactly.
And, as you're going about your day, just take a look around at the trees in your neighborhood. Are any of them leaning precariously close to buildings or power lines? Are there signs of decay or damage? Start observing with a new informed perspective, and you might be surprised at what you see.
Yeah, we often take trees for granted, but they can be powerful forces of nature.
And appreciating their power means knowing when to give them the respect they deserve.
Well said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Everybody stay safe out there.
You too.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.